Hi, everybody. It's Susan here. I'm back with a Pisces new moon video for you. It's been a while. I had a little holiday with my children, my big children, and had an absolutely wonderful time in real life. Lots of hugs and lots of eating and chatting and laughing, and it was really nice. It's been months since I've seen them, so it was really lovely to catch up. Um, Right. So we have something really interesting here. And just to clarify, I use the tropical zodiac. It's a whole sign system. For those of you who are asking, is this the real sky? Please rest assured that there is no astrologer who actually does astrology based on what we consider to be the real sky, because we're only ever looking at 12 constellations maximum anyway, which is certainly a far cry from what the real sky is. So you can get over all of that stuff and just relax. These are human ideas in a human paradigm, and it's always going to, there's not one system that is perfect. There's not one system that is exact. Uh, Only nature is exact and honest and truthful. Humans are always a little bit wobbly. We have our point of view and we have our vision, and just stay with what works and leave everybody else alone to do what works for them. And that you can extrapolate far, far, far and away from astrology. So, coming back to our Pisces new moon, this is maybe an excellent time for you to reframe what you think, because at the same time as this new moon, we have a really interesting sextile from Pluto, rather from Mercury to Pluto. Of course, Pluto is just in early Aquarius. We have a little stellium. I tend to prefer a four-planet stellium, but I'm going to give it because it's Pluto. So we have a stellium in Aquarius. We certainly have a stellium in Pisces. And then we've got this really interesting sextile, which for me, when you Mercury is sextiling Pluto, there's a lot that we can learn in terms of our way of thinking. And many of you are in the comments and in your written emails and messages to me talking about a lot of fear and a lot of worry around Pluto transits. And, we're in a crazy time. There's no a way around that. And so we are unconsciously and deliberately being trained to be very, very afraid. And many people are unaware of that. Of course, it is unconscious, it's quite deliberate, as I mentioned. And so we think that we're afraid of what's going on in our own lives, but this is an existential fear, always. All fear is existential. And that brings us back to Pisces. Pisces, of course, is about understanding the true nature of life itself. And when we have Mercury in a sextile to Pluto, we have this capacity to really think differently. Mercury is in the Aries point, it's at the very first degree. At 0 degrees and 23 minutes of Aries. It's going to be there a while. Mercury is going to stay in Aries until mid-May. So get used to Mercury in Aries. Get used to things being really fast, as if they weren't fast already. Get used to messages coming thick and fast. Get used to information coming thick and fast. Mercury is ruled by Mars, so it can be a bit edgy as well. Comments can be a bit edgy. Even, the topic of what we might discuss, of course, can be Mars-like, which would not be unusual given the times we're living in. And so that Mercury in a sextile to Pluto is an opportunity. Sextile is an opportunity. We have to take it to really change our thinking, to change how we show up and reflect on things. Pluto in Aquarius is there with us for a very, very long time. As you know, it's going to very quickly go back into Capricorn, September, October, the first 3 weeks of November. Then it's back in Aquarius for 20 more years. So we want to start to get used to this idea of things changing. For me, Pluto in Aquarius is very much about a major shift in the way that we see the world and how we communicate with each other, how we connect with each other, how we associate with each other in a political sense. And I'll do more videos on that now. I will make time for that, I swear, I promise. On in terms of our collective governance and so on, Pluto, where Pluto was in Capricorn, was changing the way that we relate to government and how we are governed, and our relationship to what I consider to be late stage capitalism and how it has destroyed systems of government around the world. Now Pluto is in Aquarius, and the big question is going to be the potential, I suspect, probable dissolution of the notion of globalism and the contrast with nationalism. And so there's going to be quite a lot of tugging and pulling at this on a collective scale. And then for us individually, this can be how we relate to our world around us, the rest of the world as a community, but also as a concept. What is life for me? And there again, I come back to our lovely Pisces new moon. I happen to have a major stellium in Pisces, and so I'm quite familiar with this energy. And a Pisces new moon for me is always an opportunity to kind of reset myself going into the year ahead. But we can all see it as an interesting, of course, new moon is always a new beginning, but also an ending of something. So it's the ending of a cycle and the last sign of the zodiac. And so we can say that as we end something, something else begins. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? We have this really lovely opportunity to seed a new moment, but it comes from breaking the seed, right? When a seed is it's sprouting, it's because the seed itself is destroyed. There is not one thing that can be created without destroying something else. And so this is where I want to come back to this notion of the Pluto and Mercury sextile, overcoming your fear. Fear of what? Fear of letting go, fear of loss. Pisces is ultimately at the end of the zodiac all about what we have to let go. At the end of any life, anyone who's born must die. There's just no two ways about that. We can kick and scream as much as we want, but that just creates mental disturbance. It doesn't change the fact that all things that are born will one day disintegrate and die. That's the end of the story. And so the more that we can become comfortable with that sense of, yeah, we're constantly changing. This is change. Of a new moon is the end of that last lunar cycle and the beginning of the next one. Then we can become more at peace with the fact that in every single moment, we are in a space of shedding, coming and going. Thich Nhat Hanh, my teacher, would describe a birthday as continuation day. I just had my birthday. And he would never say happy birthday, he would say happy continuation day, because there is no birth and no death. This is a very important concept in Buddhism. It's a Vedantic concept too, but they don't use those words. And certainly it's the meaning of Pisces. It's this kind of a dissolution, but it's not a dissolution in terms of something actually disappearing. That's not, there's nowhere for it to go. It's a transformation. And that's again part of the message of Pluto. What are we here to transform? So I would like to suggest that with Pluto sextiling that Mercury, or rather Mercury sextiling Pluto, faster moving planet always aspects the slower one. Mercury sextiling Pluto is telling us to change our way of thinking, change the way we relate to our thinking pattern, and start something new. Mercury at the very beginning of the zodiac, first degree of Aries, and the Aries point, very intense at this point, with that new moon in Pisces, asking us also to let go of something, shed an idea of what it is that we're clinging to, and find the freedom that is there in letting go. Now, this new moon is in a semi-sextile to Mars, very, very powerfully. And moon-sun conjunction, creating that new moon in a semi-sextile to Mars, can also give us an impetus for change. There can be a really strong desire for change because it's a semi-sextile is uncomfortable. It's like someone who's a little too close to you in the elevator, or sitting a little too close to you on the bench, and you just need a little change. There's a strong motivation, and then when that motivation comes, there's a readiness for change. You get up and you go. You move out of the way. The door to the lift opens up and you dash out. Mars is also squaring Uranus at this point. It's a very strong square, less than half a degree. And that's a really interesting energy for change as well. Mars-Uranus squaring is really who knows what. You don't know what kind of change is coming. It's an opportunity for something new to come in through potentially an impulse, through a new understanding of values. Of course, we're looking at Taurus, the Venus-ruled planets now, Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. And that Mars squaring the Uranus is creating a desire, an impetus for change that might come across suddenly. It might be just like, oh, this is the time now. So this phase of the new moon, exact on the 10th of March, it's 9 a.m. Universal Time, but it's actually really building from the sort of 8th of March right through till about the 12th. The lunar phase is a space of about 3 days of time. So you can already start to think about what it is that I'm ready to change, what it is that I'm preparing for, um, what action do I want to take in my life? What do I know I'm really needing to let go of for my own good, for my own self worth, or for my own sanity, for my own peace? Pisces, of course, is also a sign of spiritual progression, a sign of awakening spiritually. And so that letting go can also be seen as a surrendering. So it's a surrendering, which doesn't mean giving up. It's not like a military surrender, although these days that would be most welcome on many, many sides. But the surrender is really surrendering to God, surrendering to the universe, surrendering to the power that makes flowers grow and that makes your heartbeat, that's beating my heart, that's allowing us to live without us having to have an opinion on that or to think about it. The thing that beats our heart while we're sleeping at night, we surrender to that and we say, well, that power seems to have a bigger picture in mind. It has a better idea of what life can be like than I might have. And so what am I willing to let go of now? So use this time of this new moon to prepare for a new frame of reference, because we're also moving into the eclipse phase now. So we're, as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty much in it, because this is only 2 weeks away from the lunar eclipse. I'll do a separate video on that very soon this week. And we're only about 34, 35 days away from the total solar eclipse, which is very, very powerful. I do believe the lunar eclipse is also powerful. Of course, the massive stellium that's coming up in Aries for the total solar eclipse makes it even more so. But don't underestimate a lunar eclipse, especially a south node lunar eclipse, in terms of what we are able to let go of, what we're able to accomplish in terms of our emotional, perhaps connections or emotional attachments, which keep us stuck and needing to move on, but unwilling to move on until we get this big nudge in terms of, for example, an eclipse. But we can already prepare for that now. So if the more that we can prepare and recognize that there's a way of behaving, there's a pattern of thinking, there's a belief system, there's a something that I'm clinging to out of fear that I'm willing to let go, the eclipse season is just going to be much more graceful. And of course, that's how we want to go through life. We want to go through life allowing for change. Look at anyone who's an elder to you, anyone who is flexible, adaptable, living in the moment and ready to change. Is youthful, even if they're in their 80s, 90s. They're youthful because they are current. They aren't dragging baggage around for decades. And yet you can also have people who are in their 20s and 30s who feel heavy and who feel just unwilling to grow and change. And they're stuck and they're clinging to an idea, clinging to a belief, clinging to a fear. So the more that we can just question that, the more that we can question our trust in our own thoughts and recognize that we are often fooling ourselves. We are our own worst enemy in that sense. That we shouldn't trust our thinking. Our thinking is usually what gets us into these big messes. And the more that we can let go of that, the better and more free we can live our lives. Now, we also have a really lovely support coming from Saturn and Jupiter in a lovely sextile. It just keeps going and going. I'm giving it a 3-degree orb, so it continues through most of March. And Saturn and Jupiter sextiling, keeping in mind that Jupiter is ruling Saturn from Taurus. That sextile is very supportive in terms of wisdom, understanding, growth, and a determination to make something lasting. So we can apply all of these things that allow us to develop, to grow humanly, spiritually, and find a way then to take that forward into this eclipse era, let's call it, between now and April, May. April is going to be an incredibly changeable month. It's going to be intense in terms of what opportunities we can seize to grow and to change. And the more we shed now, in terms of mostly our ideas and any outgrown patterns, the easier it will be to grab onto the next thing that's coming, because Aries is about the next new thing. It's about something that we're growing into and starting afresh. And so this is the last lunar cycle that we have to sort of clean up and prepare for that new phase that is coming as of the 8th of April, when we get that big eclipse. But this is a lunar cycle that is introducing us to the eclipse cycle, and so we can already embrace that. And that eclipse energy continues for several weeks before and after the eclipse, the exact eclipses. So we're in it pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, from this early stage in March and right through till the end of April. I'm going to do separate videos on all the different things, including the Mercury in Aries, which we haven't seen since 2018. That was March 2018, and that was even before we had Chiron in Aries. So do you remember 2018? I literally had to kind of sit down and think, what was I doing in 2018? It just feels like a whole different lifetime. But we'll talk about that in another video with the Mercury retrograde. We do move into the Mercury shadow phase from about the 18th of March. So that Mercury shadow, the retrograde shadow, is all through the eclipse phase, the eclipse period, because it runs right till the 13th of May. As I said, it's a big, long Mercury retrograde entirely in the sign of Aries. So there's something here that we have been learning with the North Node there that Mercury is going to highlight. I'll do a separate video coming up really soon about that, so we can focus more sign by sign on those things. And we have our lovely Venus as well, the day after this new moon, very quickly moving into Pisces, where she is exalted, bringing out the best. So we have a lovely exalted Venus now, then ruling Jupiter and Uranus for much of March. And that's really nice because it brings out the best of the Jupiter in Taurus. So that might also give us a boost in other ways. So I consider that Venus is a part of this Pisces stellium at the time of the new moon, because although it will have completed, it actually is moving in very soon within the new moon phase. And so we can include this exalted Venus in the new cycle that we're developing with a beautiful, compassionate, loving, and optimistic, expansive Venus in exaltation in the sign of Pisces within the new moon phase. So technically, I think that's on the 11th of March. Universal time. I used universal time because also around the time of this new moon in North America, the clocks are changing. And don't ask me about the time. I use universal time because it doesn't change. Like places like India where they don't change the time is just so much easier to deal with. You don't have all this faffing around about which day is changing and so on. You figure that out for yourself. Stick with universal time. If you are an astrologer, it's a lot easier when you're looking at things in a general way, unless you need to prepare a chart for a specific event, obviously like a birth or a new event, then you take a local time. But otherwise, just look at the universal time for transits, and you don't get muddled in terms of these clock changes. So anyway, bear that in mind. In Europe, we don't change the clock until the week after the spring equinox, and so, or the Aries equinox, we can call it. And so that's a different kettle of fish again. So I'll come back also with an equinox video, because that's an interesting thing to look at in terms of the so-called astrological new year, which is, by the way, what Mercury is kind of inaugurating right now. As Mercury goes into that zero Aries point, we can think from this point on that we're learning something already about what the astrological new year is going to entail when the sun moves into the zero Aries, the Aries point of the chart. So I'm going to go sign by sign. I'm going to do it a little bit differently now. I'm going to share a little differently because I used to prepare these slides in my old days of doing the video more like a podcast. And so I'm just going to share with you. I do hope you are seeing. Let me check what you're seeing. Yeah, I think we're seeing it. I'm just going to share with you the topics of the houses. And I'm going to, for myself, have a look at the houses itself. Right, here we go. So, right, so Aries, right? Of course, we're going to start with Aries. And Aries, this is happening in your 12th house. So that's a very interesting, hang on, let me just get my chart lined up with this so I can see what I'm about to tell you. So trying something new here, folks. It might take a minute. All right. And I do hope you're seeing what I think you're seeing, but otherwise, never mind. Right. So Aries, you have this new moon happening in your 12th house. The 12th house is a really interesting place where a lot happens behind the eyes, everything that you can't see, whether that be metaphorically, metaphysically, or literally. Either things are behind closed doors, or they're geographically far away, or they are not necessarily clear because they are unconscious. There's something that's happening in your mind or in your unconscious behavior. That can include habits. And so when a new moon comes up here, you can think, well, perhaps it's time for me to have a new habit in mind, shed any dysfunctional habits, any kind of self-defeating habits. This is what Saturn certainly is helping you with for these years that Saturn is there. And your ruler, Mars, is in the 11th house, which is focusing right now on your future. Things that you want, what you wish for, and how you envisage your life going forward. And since Pluto is there for 20 years, this is a great time to clear all of that, the fog, let's say, clear away all of the things that might be holding you back in terms of overcoming things that are blocking you, whether that be psychological things or addictions or habits that are simply self-defeating. And it can also be a deeply spiritual time. This is an opportunity for you to grow into something completely different, as you have had the North Node in your first house of self for a very, very long time. You've got Jupiter and Uranus in your house of values for many, many years already. Uranus has been there, much like the North Node, for about 5 years or more, almost 6 years. So you're growing, you're changing a lot, and this new moon just before the eclipse cycle that's happening in your first and seventh house axis can really give you a new insight in terms of what you believe, how you see yourself as a spiritual being, how you might let go of some dysfunctional, what we might call personality behavior, and see yourself in a new role going forward in the future with your ruler there in the 11th house of your future. This can perhaps entail something to do with work. So it might be money that you can earn or things that you can benefit from coming from people from a faraway place, faraway lands, or clients or people that you see in a discreet way, meaning that you are having private consultations with people that are confidential, the kind of thing that you would do if you were an astrologer or psychologist, this kind of thing. So all of that as food for thought in this new lunar cycle. Aries, that is for the sun, moon, and rising sign, as always. I do think the rising sign or the ascendant is going to give you a more probable sort of realistic way of thinking in terms of the cycle, just because it tends to be more vivid in the chart. It's really specifically related to the chart itself, whereas the sun can relate to you personally or your career. And the moon tends to be where you feel things, how you think or feel about things, but that also can relate to your home and important women in your family or life. So best of luck with that, Aries, and I'll see you in the next video. And now we have Taurus. And so Taurus, we have a really interesting 11th house new moon for you, which is quite fortunate. It brings in the house of gains, the house of your future, the vision that you have for your future. in a way that ties into you and the benefit of having that Jupiter in your first house. So something new and different, I think optimistic, especially as your ruler Venus is just about to move into that 11th house at the time of this new moon. She is in the 10th house, which is an angular house, super powerful for new developments in career and so on. She's been there for some time, so we've already spoken about that. Lots of activity in your house of how you show up in the world, how you engage with the world. We always look for the ruler to see where the energy is strongest in terms of the cycles that we're in. So Venus has had you focusing quite a lot on how you engage your career ambitions or your just social contribution, how you show up outside your front door. And then also with that Saturn in the 11th house, whatever this new moon is instilling in terms of something you're ready to let go of or move into, Saturn can bring something lasting and more durable. And that's a really helpful way of thinking about this. It's a long-term vision. So the 11th house is your future. It's not about what should I do today. It's about what do I want out of my life. So really think about these different ways that you can shed aspects of yourself that might be holding you back from success out in the world or career success even. There's something that you're doing in your social role or in your career, or perhaps with regards to people like parents or your spouse, with Mars and Venus there in the 10th house, that is actually contributing to what it is that you are ready to change or how you might need to change with that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction looming through the second half of March and into April. So a lot to think about for Taurus. Change, I know, doesn't come super easily for Taurus, but this is really harmonious. I think this is one of the most pleasant energies that we have that is preparing us in a lovely, I think, harmonious and positive way for some pretty hectic change to come in the spring. Hectic doesn't have to mean bad. It just means that it's going to be pretty rapid fire, which doesn't always harmonize very well with the fixed signs like Taurus. So, so give it a lot of thought. Be creative. Pisces is a creative energy. It's about imagining something. So this is especially true for Taurus ascendant signs, but it will certainly apply to your sun and your moon as well. And always read the description below the video. There's extra information in there about what these things mean in terms of interpreting sun, moon, and rising signs. It's there every single month. So thanks, Taurus, and good luck with everything. And I'll see you in the next video. All right, so we have Gemini now, and the Geminis are getting this in the house of career, which is a lovely boost, is something really interesting happening for you because with Pluto going into your 9th house and lots of activity there with Venus and Mars in the 9th for quite some time already, that 10th house newness can really have you feeling a greater sense of ambition and drive, a greater sense of your purpose. This is also where your ruler has just moved into your 11th house. So there can be a lot of thinking around how you earn your living. So the 11th is the money that you earn from whatever it is that you do. And that can be gains in a general sense, but it can also be issues around socializing. Mercury also represents friends, for example. And since Mercury is your ruler, it's going to be there till the middle of May, and you want to focus a lot on your future. Now, you've had the North Node here since July 2022. And so, especially so for Gemini rising or ascendant signs, but also for the sun and the moon, this is something to think about in terms of what you want for your future, how you want to reach out into your life in the future, but also socially, how you want to connect with people socially. And so it could be a very social time for Geminis in all ways, because you've got all of the personal planets at the top of your chart, outward manifestations, lots of goals, lots of ambitions, lots of ideas around what it is that you'd like to do. So I see this as extremely positive for Gemini, very helpful. Venus will be just about moving into the 10th house around the time of this new moon, and she will add to the good fortune and the energy that's coming into your 10th house that can represent career. or a new goal in terms of ambition, in terms of your life ambition. That doesn't matter if you're working or not, it can be just in terms of how you decide to participate out in the world. Um, and that can bring you a lot of benefit, a lot of success. Venus is exalted in your 10th house of Pisces, both because she's angular, but also because she is exalted in Pisces. So anytime Venus crosses your 10th house threshold, you see real success. It can be really, really helpful. And you will have the boost of Jupiter and Uranus in the 12th house. So this can also come from places that are a little bit hidden from the public, or far away, and geographically far away, especially as you've got a lot of ninth house stuff going on now with Pluto and then Venus, Mars up there too, and Venus ruling your 12th house. This can also be where the 12th is showing you a different way of living your life spiritually, where you're ready now to live your life in a much more maybe rich and full way than you have up until now. And that again depends on your natal chart, but I see this generally speaking as something very, very interesting and positive for you. So yeah, make the most of this, Gemini, and I will see you in the next video. And so Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign, this is all happening in your 9th house. And the 9th house is what we could generally describe as the house of Dharma, or your sense of purpose, the road to God, if you like. This is where there's a lot of interest in terms of your vision for your life, how you are focused on what you do out in the world and what you want to learn and develop with that. You have a lot of digging and understanding going on with Pluto in the 8th, and Venus and Mars have been there. Lots of interest around what you share with others. That can be materially what you receive from others, what benefit you might get from other people. But also it's about moral support as well. It's about understanding the mysteries of life, and you bring that out into the 9th house, and you might teach that, or you will want to learn that, or you will want to expand into that. It's a new cycle in terms of what you believe, what you have faith in, what you want to do in your life as a sense of personal purpose. Mercury is moving into your 10th house, where it will be till the middle of May. And now this is really an opportunity for you to be very active in your career. You might find that there's a desire, for example, with Jupiter ruling your 9th house, where Saturn is, along with the new moon. From the 11th house of gains, you might find new ideas in terms of how you work, or how you communicate your work, or how you might be wanting to develop a new course, or teach a new course, or write a book. Mercury rules your 3rd house. It's in your 10th house. And then you've got a big stellium in your 9th house of publishing and teaching and so on. Jupiter, Uranus in the 11th house is showing you a vision for your future that also connects you to groups of people. So Pisces, that 9th house Pisces is going to be really a creative time for you through the month of March, as Venus is going to move in to the 9th house just shortly, a day after this new moon. And it brings a lot of creative energy from the 9th house, where Venus is exalted in Pisces, into your 11th house of gains, where Venus is ruling that Jupiter. So be creative, think in a new way. And with Pluto going through the 8th house, especially as Venus, Mars are in there, it's time to overcome self-limiting beliefs, fears that you might have, overcome family trauma, or any kinds of family issues. Anything that you might have been not clear about or not sure about is starting to be revealed. It might be something that you discover over many, many years, but that you overcome. It's all about transformation. And, Pluto is in the 8th house of transformation, where it kind of resonates. It's that scorpionic energy of going deep and fearlessly into something that is not understood. This can also be where you might find a deeper passion or a deeper understanding for the mysteries of life, including occult things, like what we're doing here with astrology, or tarot, or whatever kind of spirit guides that might illuminate you. And so for Cancer rising, Especially, this is going to be a very powerful time, very spiritual time, very enriching time, but it certainly also applies by derivative houses to the sun and the moon in Cancer. And as Cancer is ruled by the moon, all of these lunar cycles are really important for Cancer. So the moon is your ruler, and a new moon is like a rebirth time, a rebirth moment. In this case, in your ninth house, which is a fortunate, very lucky place. So make the most of this time. It's a lovely, I think, wonderful way of introducing the busy eclipse period that's coming up. So think in terms of your personal and spiritual growth and how that can benefit other people as well. So good luck with that, Cancer, and I'll see you in the next video. And then we have Leo, and Leo, this is happening in your eighth house. And so when we have a new moon in the eighth house, we can understand things about ourselves in a really profound way. You can understand things about intimate relationships. You can understand things about money that you might share with other people. The eighth is both money that you receive from other people as well as money that you might negotiate with other people, whether that be like stock exchange benefits, like money that you get through investments or through loans. So it's the give and take of money. If it's with regards to a relationship, which is very, very powerful for you right now with Pluto and then Mars and Venus in your seventh house, then there can be something that you're understanding about your intimate life or about what it is that you need to do in terms of what you share with your partner, whether that's also a business partner or an intimate partner. That's up to you. It can be just also good friends. Of course, that new moon energy is going to be boosted when Venus goes from your seventh house of relationship into the eighth house of connections with other people, what you share with other people, your unconscious patterns, transformation of all kinds, and also the occult. It's something that might, again, pique your interest in something that is going to go deeper or bigger than what you see before your eyes. And especially as Jupiter is in your 10th house now and going to be conjoining Uranus in April in your 10th house, it's a good time for you to really get clear that there are certain things that you want to understand about yourself so that when Jupiter Uranus comes around, and by the way, that conjunction is building already from mid-March. So it's mid-March really through till early May. You're really ready then to rock and roll. You're really ready by understanding what you're ready to let go of, fears that you're ready to leave behind, or issues or blocks around relationships, or feeling let go or feeling not taken care of. With Saturn in the eighth, that can be a feeling that you might have to just kind of struggle a little bit on your own. And the more that you mature around that, the easier and more likely you will find that pattern of conjunction, the approaching and then separating conjunction for the weeks ahead of that Jupiter Uranus in your 10th house, a superb opportunity for personal success and also career or social success. And Mercury is in your ninth house. That's a great opportunity too. It's there till mid-May. Mercury just entering into your ninth house is a great opportunity for you to try and understand what it is that you want to express, how you want to, maybe what you believe in terms of your faith or in terms of what you see as your purpose, or what it is that you might want to learn, keeping an open mind, having a sense of something that you need to understand a little bit better. And so you're, of course, ruled by the sun, which is part of the new moon feature. So all of these lunations also are part of the cycle of the sun and moon dancing together. And that's where you are the most of your energy there in the eighth house for Leo, sun, moon, and rising. So good luck with that, Leo, and I'll see you in the next video. And so here we have a Virgo ascendant with a very funny glyph. I don't know what's going on with the glyph, but okay, there we are. Sorry about that, Virgo. For you especially, I would have wanted that to look all neat and pretty. But there we are. We've got a new moon in your house of relationships for Virgo. Lots of relationship energy for Virgos this season because there's such a lot going on with Saturn and Neptune going into your seventh house for quite some time. This is a big focus for you already for many years with Neptune there, but especially now since 2023 with Saturn there and for the next 2 years. And now with Venus moving into your seventh house, there can be some realizations around relationships, which can be super enlightening. Think in terms of the long-term range, the long-term vision for relationships for you, because the North Node will be moving into your seventh house, South Node moving into your first house as of January next year. We'll certainly talk about that again. But there might be something that you need to shed in terms of issues around victim martyr qualities, where you might find that there's a need for you to recognize a pattern of behavior. With Mercury in the eighth, you can understand that a little bit better. Patterns of behavior that are not really supportive of you having the greatest success in relationships or having a feeling of joy or happiness in relationships. Pluto moving into your sixth house is also going to transform your relationship to health in general. That's physical as well as mental. And with Venus and Mars in your sixth house over the last couple of weeks, it's definitely been an opportunity for you to recognize how your day-to-day life, day-to-day schedule may not really be supporting you. So your ruler Mercury in the eighth house is pulling a lot of your attention into what needs to change, what you might need to discover about yourself. It's going to be there until the middle of May. And it's the eighth house where you're going to have that major eclipse coming up, the total solar eclipse on the 8th of April, which I'll talk about more. And your ruler is part of that. It's there, going to be lingering in that eighth house. So do lots of housekeeping, lots of focus in terms of what I want to see for my future. Jupiter, that is ruling your seventh house, is in the ninth, which is hugely beneficial. A wonderful opportunity for you to expand your vision for what you feel your purpose is here, what it is that you want to achieve, what it is that you believe, what you have faith in, what you want to learn. So this is for, especially speaking from the point of view of the ascendant or the rising sign in Virgo, but absolutely also the case for the sun and the moon in Virgo. So make the most of all of this. This is a really lovely energy right now, and a nice, well-deserved boost from an otherwise quite hectic spring. All right, Virgo, I'll see you in the next video. And so we have now for our Libra friends, this is all happening in the sixth house of everyday work, the things that you do for your health, for work in terms of your day-to-day occupation or your job, let's say, the thing that pays the bills. But it's also what keeps you going. It's what keeps you functional, where you find your busyness, or where you overcome challenges. So you've got Saturn there now since last year. It's continuing right through till February 2026, which is good for giving you a feeling of determination and readiness to overcome challenges. And you've got Pluto in the fifth house with your ruler, Venus, just about to go in the sixth house, where she's been connecting with Pluto, connecting with Mars from this place of the fifth house. How do I express myself? How do I express my creativity? How do I reach out into my way of being in the world? And now with this new moon in the sixth house, you have an opportunity of saying, actually, I see these particular ways of looking at my day-to-day life, the simple, basic stuff of my everyday life, that is bringing me an awareness of what needs to change, what I'd like to let go, what it is that I need to move on from, and what I'm ready to start going forward. This might have something to do with a relationship, of course, because the North Node is in your seventh house, so there's a huge focus on relationships. Mercury has just moved in there, and that will remain. Mercury will remain in your seventh house along with the North Node and Chiron there for quite some time. Mercury's there for the next 2 months, essentially, till the middle of May. So, of course, this is where the 8th of April eclipse is also going to happen. You have the 25th of March eclipse in your first house. So think in terms of the new moon in your sixth house as letting go of all of these maybe attitudes towards day-to-day struggles or obligations or even health issues, especially with Saturn there. It will sort you out. With Neptune in the sixth house, there can have been a lot of confusion around health. When Neptune is in the sixth house, it can be that you're not really clear what might be wrong. And there can be quite a lot of psychosomatic health issues with Neptune in the sixth house. That again depends on your natal chart. That's not going to apply to everybody, but it's an opportunity for more clarity and a new vision for yourself that you're choosing for yourself. The moon rules your ninth house. So the moon from the sixth house can be an opportunity for you to pull in your sense of what your purpose is into your everyday life, into your everyday sort of day-to-day grind, and overcoming obstacles through all of these new ways of seeing yourself, which will, by the way, be much easier as your ruler moves into the sixth. Lots of feeling of can-do and optimism around that. Now, you do also have Jupiter, Uranus in your eighth house. And so there's another opportunity for you to overcome hidden things that you're maybe blocked from understanding or that you weren't realizing up until this point. But also with Jupiter in the eighth house, feeling a lot more support and a sense that, okay, I do have support coming either from my main relationships or from my perhaps work relationships, work partnerships, or even money that comes to you surprisingly through whether it be an unexpected gain through tax refunds, or it can be something that might be due to an inheritance or something that can come in a way that feels quite like a blessing with Jupiter there. Of course, the eighth house is always this mixed bag, as life is, of loss and gain. And so they do go hand in hand. Listen to the introduction about this new moon in Pisces for more on that. All right, see you in the next video then, Virgo. And Scorpio, I don't know what's going on with my slides. I thought I was going to get all fancy this time, and something's weird with all these slides, but there we are. So I'm blaming PowerPoint. It was fine in Canva. So here we are. Scorpio, this is all happening in your fifth house. The fifth house is how you express yourself, how you feel about your way of being creative, how you show up in the world, how you engage in terms of who you are, just being yourself. This can also have reference to children. So for Scorpio rising particularly, but also your sun and moon, there can be something new in the lives of children around you or in your life in terms of having children or connecting with your children. This is especially true because you've got that Pluto in the fourth house, so there might be something new around home and family and around how you connect in terms of what you need to feel stable and happy. Your ruler, Mars, is in the fourth house as well. Later in March, it will go into the fifth house. And then that gives you a lot of dynamism in terms of your creative expression, potentially also romantic expression, as Venus is also going to be there. Once again, Mars and Venus connecting with each other. And then Venus, just after this new moon, in fact, Venus will be in your fifth house. So this could be really lovely for Scorpio risings, especially. But then we also have Jupiter, Uranus in the seventh house. And so there's something that can be very new and exciting in relationships in general. And that can also be connected to your business relationships, the people that you connect to through whether it be clients or whether it be business partners or the way you organize yourself in business. The fifth house is also a house of entrepreneurial activity. So especially with Saturn there, you might be really focusing on starting your own business, on connecting in some way through a passion or a desire or an interest that you have that you're wanting to develop more into a business. As Mercury is going to be spending now really the next 2 months in your sixth house up until the 13th of May, you will have a lot of activity, a lot of busyness in your everyday life, a lot of focus on the contractual side of things, duties and obligations around the nitty-gritty of every day. That's where the Mercury retrograde will be happening through the first 25 days of April. And so whatever you might need to organize in terms of contracts or employee issues or colleague issues that you want to deal with, do that now if you can before the 18th of April, and try to see this as a fresh way of connecting to how you show up, how you'd like to show up also in terms of your self-expression, creativity. So really interesting time. The fifth house is a lucky house, Scorpio, so it's probably also an opportunity for you to just actually enjoy this moment and make the most of it, especially as Jupiter is in your seventh and can bring you some really interesting support coming from other people. Right. Good luck with all that, Scorpio. I'll see you in the next video. Now, Sagittarius, this is happening in your fourth house. So that's going to have a lot to do with your home and where you live. It can be about family, it can be about lineage, it can be about your family of origin or the family that you're creating. Hang on, I'll just take a little drink. Sagittarius, you've got your ruler Jupiter in the sixth house. So you've been busy for sure. It's there until the 25th of May. And Jupiter is ruling your fourth house from the sixth house. So there might be something that you're organizing in terms of your work that has to do with where you live or a vision for what makes you happy, especially as we've got Mercury in your fifth house now for a couple of months. This might also potentially connect to children. Fifth house itself represents children, but also Mercury also represents children. And Jupiter, for that matter, too represents children, but that's often the aspect of children like babies and pregnancy and so on, whatever expands you. And then Saturn is in your fourth house as well, ruled by that Jupiter in the sixth, along with this new moon. And so there might be something that you're recognizing requires big structural change, long-term change. So this is actually a nice boost because certainly for Sagittarius, you have gone through quite a lot in a way that might feel really challenging, potentially psychologically as well. Sagittarius tends to be super optimistic, but this has not been an easy time, that we know. For many Sagittarians, you've been grappling with a lot of things that are connected to your past or to your family or to where you live, and what makes you feel stable and secure. So I think you're going to get a nice blessing here with this new moon. Venus is moving into the fourth house to support that energy of the new moon, and Saturn very quickly afterwards, so the day after. Pluto in your third house is changing the way that you think and communicate. And that also can be an opportunity for you to get clear about how your thinking is actually affecting the quality of your life. That's an important thing. Often with Sagittarius, there can be a tendency to jump in really quickly. Mercury will be in Aries, and that's actually trining you. So it can be very inspiring for you. Mercury in the fifth, trining your first house, especially for the ascendant, but also for Sun and Moon in Sagittarius. So there can be a lot of inspiration, a lot of a feeling of, okay, this feels different, this feels new now. So jump into that new thing now and allow that space to open up so that when the eclipses come, you're really ready for this new thing, because that's where the eclipses are going to be there, where Mercury is in your fifth house. All right, Sagittarius, have a wonderful new moon, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, Capricorn, this one is happening for you in your third house. And the third house is your thinking process, your communication, siblings, neighbors, the energy that you put into your day to day. It's about skills and learning new things. It's about traveling. And it can also have to do with challenges or a sense of having a new goal. So when we have a new moon here, you might have a sense of, I want to do this new thing. And I have this motivation that is new, based on something that might be very creative. You've got Jupiter in the fifth, which is ruling the third house for you. And the fifth house is how you express yourself, how you take risks, how you reach out into something. So there might be this real need now for a new set of goals, a new set of ideals around what it is that you want to achieve. Capricorn thrives on achievement, and that should be seen as a good thing. You keep yourself moving forward by this sense of vision, and that's because your third house is a Pisces house, and so that vision, the visionary quality of Capricorn rising is what allows that perpetual sense of growth and movement in a new direction. And now you're getting that in spades. And then you've got also Pluto moving into your second house, where we have Mars and Venus as well, which is all about changing your values and your relationship to your family or your material world, or what it is that you feel is important for you in terms of your own self-worth or the values that you live by. So as this new moon is in the third, with Venus just about to move into the third, you might start to reconnect with people in terms of how you speak, how you communicate, how you radiate information, how you teach. Can be another quality. Saturn, your ruler, has been in this third house for the past year, almost. And yeah, by the time of the new moon, it's been a year that Saturn is in this third house. And it remains there for another 2 years. So you've got some time now to really expand into a sense of maybe new talents or new goals or a new sense of what you want to connect with or communicate with on an everyday level. So yeah, it's looking very good. Mercury in the fourth house can have you reaching into the family a little bit, where you may be communicating more, or there's a lot more to organize and communicate around your family, around your home, property. You might want to be purchasing property. That can also be with the North Node in the fourth, the desire to move. Again, you'll see, don't do anything rash until the eclipses have gone. You might actually have opportunities that come out of the blue because of the eclipses. That might also have something to do with your work, because you've got the South Node in the 10th. We'll talk about that when I do a video about the eclipses. But plan with a sense of goals, a sense of what I want to see, how I might need to change, either through my short-term goals or skills that I have, or how I might need to change how I actually communicate or how I show up in my community. So that's a lot. The third house is a lot. It's a busy place. So good luck to all Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and I'll see you in the next video. And so Aquarius, and this is happening in your second house. Second house is what supports you in general. That can be money that you earn from your income, for example, or from money that you invest, stuff that you already own, money in the bank. Can be your belongings, your sense of what is important to you through your values as well. And so here's a new moon opportunity for you to expand into your sense of what is important to you, whether that be materially or metaphysically. Of course, Pisces tends to be metaphysical, but not only, it's ruled by Jupiter, and why not also have material joys while you have metaphysical growth as well. Saturn, your ruler, is there in the second house. So this is the place of putting a lot of you and your attention over the next couple of years while Saturn is there. It's been there a year already. And Venus will shortly move into the second house, which is always really nice, because that's Venus is exalted in Pisces. So very, very good for you in the second house. It can bring you some new opportunities, particularly strongly for the ascendant sign in Aquarius, but also for Sun and Moon. The sun can be representing your career or your sense of identity, so equally good. And the moon is your emotional connection. And so you might just have a stronger sense of what you value, the emotional worth that you put into yourself and your life. And then we've also got a lot of energy here in your fourth house of what makes you feel grounded, what makes you feel secure, whether that be property or ownership of property. So there can be something that you're understanding here at the time of this new moon, because that is ruled by Jupiter in the fourth. That can also connect you back to family. So fourth house is your lineage or your family of origin, and the second house is family in general. So all the things that support you in your life. We also have Mercury in the third house, where it loves to be busy, lots of mental activity, lots of communication. That's going to be until the middle of May. It's a good opportunity to learn a new skill, a good opportunity to connect with a way of communicating or teaching or learning something. Perhaps lots of travel as well. Mercury loves to run around, especially in Aries, lots of impulsive things. It's not usually the way for Aquarians, because you tend to be a bit more fixed, a bit more steady. Pluto is going through your first house, so maybe that's changing you too. And Mercury is sextiling Pluto from the third. So it's changing in a very long-term, big way. But I see this as a wonderful opportunity, great new start for all of us, really nice energy. So definitely make the most of this for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising signs. Pisces, so weird slides again. Something goofy is going on between Canva and my PowerPoint. So Never mind, Pisces, you're flexible enough to take it. All right, Pisces, this is all about you, of course, or us, depending, because I have a major Pisces stellium. So this is for the ascendant, sun, and moon sign in Pisces. And this is a lot to do with a new start in terms of one's self or an idea around what we'd like to achieve personally, how we see life, how we expand into life, what we believe, all of these aspects of the first house of self and what we understand in terms of our role. Saturn is in the first house since last March 2023, and it continues to be there till February 2026. So we've got a lot of restructuring to do, a lot of maturing to do with Saturn in the first. There can be a feeling of needing to get more serious about certain things or getting more stability around certain things. And this new moon can show what are those things that we want to feel more stable around. The fact that we have this lovely sextile from Saturn to Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, in the third house, is stabilizing perhaps what we need to aim for in terms of our short-term goals, what we feel we have to use our willpower for. Jupiter in the third can be a very busy time, very good commercially, very good in terms of communication, websites, starting a new blog or a video, a YouTube, for example, Rumble, whatever, or some kind of platform that you want to reach out into. And Pisces, the Mercury in the second house is also where we can, for 2 months now, where we can find a lot of inspiration around earned income, our own value, expressing all of that as well. But this new moon in the first is kind of setting ourselves up as we go forward, because the eclipse cycle is going to be very, very prominent in that second house, eighth house axis. And so Mercury is just now showing what is important. So at the time of this new moon, focus in on yourself, on how you see yourself expanding, how you see yourself getting serious, finding perhaps a need for new boundaries or new structures in terms of how you show up. Venus is coming into the first house and is exalted in Pisces, so really supportive, really beneficial for Pisces. Pluto from the 12th is bringing in new ideas from the unconscious or from other realms, including from ancestral realms, from the unknown unconscious realms, but also can be people from far away, people from distant lands and travel in distant lands. Jupiter in the third, especially as the ruler of Pisces in the third house, lots of travel plans probably, and would bring benefit in terms of your connections with people, with neighbors, with siblings, with friends around you. So just lots going on for Pisces, a really beneficial new moon, a fresh new year for Pisces, and especially so if this is happening close to the degree points of your own chart, so around the 20-degree point. So Pisces, sun, moon, and rising especially, this is a really lovely start, and enjoy not only this start, but also this new cycle, this annual cycle that has just begun. And I wish you all the best until I see you in the next video. Bye.